I was absolutely speechless when I saw this. Tesla to recall nearly all its US vehicles in the largest ever recall? It sure must be something really serious. I mean, who would write a headline like that if all that Tesla was voluntarily doing was just making some of the icons slightly tiny, little bit bigger, and probably you would have not noticed that some of them on the one side are a little bit bigger if I didn't tell you. I don't expect much from the media, but to call it the largest ever Tesla recall is a new low. Here's another masterpiece from the Wall Street Journal. Tesla recalls millions of vehicles over the latest safety flaw, which is literally just making the icons 5% bigger. I don't think they would require any automaker to replace the icons physically if they just found, they are 5% too small. There would be outrage. Anyone who would own any of these vehicles, let's say a GM vehicle, a Mercedes, whatever, there would be protests on the street. I don't have a problem with changing these icons. Do it. But I have a major problem with calling this a major safety recall. And perhaps most importantly, which raises a lot of questions, why did NHTSA not bring up the safety critical icon size change when they did the last recall? You can just put them together. This is becoming some serious regulatory harassment. Someone is defending Elon's compensation package here, and Elon says definitely buy the stock of any company where the CEO accepts the terms that I did. If you made that offer to any CEO in the top 500 companies, none would take it. Well, definitely if they are incorporated in Delaware, but there's pretty much no arguing that what Elon just said there is absolutely true, and that it is a bombshell filled with common sense. The judge made such a big deal that this compensation package was not fair, but how can it not be fair if you ask all other CEOs and you present them with this compensation package where they get paid on performance, and if they don't hit these performance goals, they get nothing? If they don't take it, how can you say that this compensation package is not fair? A package that all other CEOs would refuse. Do you think Mary Barra would take that compensation package? No way. This does not include dividends, but with dividends included, the result is not really all that different. In the last 14 years, GM stock went up 14%, and she has been the CEO for 10 years now. But it's not all that bad. Thanks to this judge, millions of Tesla investors just found out that Kimball Musk is in fact Elon Musk's brother. How could we possibly ever know without the guiding light of the Delaware judge? I wish I had known sooner so I could avoid the trap of getting a 12x return on my money. I would understand the frustration if the returns were terrible. But when the returns are good, a lot can be forgiven. So even if you have a problem with Elon's proxy statement being disclosed supposedly inappropriately, okay, but the returns, look at the returns. Who got hurt here other than Tesla short sellers? No one. Now, Tesla incorporating in Texas is not going to be free. It will be a pretty decent amount of money that Tesla will have to spend every single year just to be incorporated in Texas. Tesla might pay over $200 million per year if they reincorporate in Texas. This might be less expensive, though, than what Delaware is and will be costing Tesla. And there are zero assurances that Delaware is favorable to corporations by default going forward. And we certainly know that the Delaware judge dislikes Elon Musk. And there's a bit of a precedent now. I'm not sure what the final number is going to be that Tesla will need to pay. Seems like there's a bit of a debate about that. Elon also could seek for perhaps an exemption for some period of time. So it should be fairly favorable to Tesla to incorporate in Texas. Elon Musk is warning everyone on X, change your state of incorporation out of Delaware before they lock the doors. They are currently blocking John Maloney from changing incorporation from Delaware to Nevada. And should you go with Nevada or Texas? For most companies, Nevada, says Elon Musk. Tesla is physically headquartered in Texas, so makes more sense for us to do that. There are new price cuts that Tesla just executed in Canada, and I don't see this as a negative. If anything, this can actually help Tesla increase its profits because of incentives that Tesla previously could not access. Tesla has dropped Model Y prices in Canada by up to 6.9% or 4,000 Canadian dollars. And this is actually really good news for all of those Canadians that want to get into a Tesla, because the prices do not just get $4,000 cheaper. No. If you live anywhere in Canada, you can now access this $5,000 federal incentive because the vehicle is now under $55,000. And on top of that, many provinces, which are basically states, have additional incentives. For example, BC, where I live, has $4,000 incentives. So you add those two together, you get $9,000 off on top of the $4,000 that Tesla just gave everyone. Which basically means the Model Y rear-wheel drive just got $13,000 cheaper, at least here in British Columbia. And Quebec has even bigger incentives, which is where James lives. And actually both trims qualify, the rear-wheel drive and the long range, both qualify for these incentives because the lowest trim just needs to be under $55,000, and then any trim up to $65,000 also qualifies. As a Canadian, I approve this Tesla move. I like going for walks and seeing more EVs. And I know so many people want an SUV, so they don't really want the Model 3 and they really wanted the Model Y, but with all these incentives, it just doesn't really make sense to spend all of that extra money to get the Model Y and not the Model 3. But now I think on the roads, we will see so many more Model Ys over here in Canada. And because these incentives are fairly big, I think overall this will be a positive profit contributor to Tesla's bottom line, because you cut the prices by $4,000, but really you just cut them by more, well over $10,000 for the end consumer. So the number of vehicles you are going to sell is definitely going to be higher here in Canada. And James is so excited about this that he's actually putting his BMW up for sale tomorrow, and it seems like he's getting a Tesla. He says he wants a Model X, but the Model Y is just so much cheaper in Quebec that he will probably reconsider and get the Tesla Model Y instead. My personal recommendation to everyone is, unless you really don't mind showing off, and for practical reasons, the Falcon doors, there are a few issues with them. If you really do want the Model X, it's a great car, but I suggest to rent it maybe for 5 days and see if you actually want it. If you just drive by yourself mostly and you don't have any people getting into your car, I think it's fine. And in Canada, the Model 3 and the Model Y both now have the exact same starting prices. Now you might think that's a bad thing, but Steven says this is a strong signal that the new Model 3 has a really strong pull. I don't think I've seen a single negative review of the Model 3, the refreshed one. Tesla has reduced the APR for financing in the US, which means you can get the car for cheaper. Now, the first drop since earlier in 2023 for excellent credit rating, you can now finance the vehicle for 6.49% if you get a 72-month loan, down from 6.59%. As interest rates come down this year, the Tesla vehicles will also get more affordable, which should help Tesla sell more Teslas. Oh, what's going on here? Tesla Cybertruck wheel covers cause unusual wear and will be redesigned. The problem comes from these wheel covers digging into the sidewall of the tire. It's a bit hard to see, but once you see it, it's easy to understand. So you see how these strips are shorter here than they are, for example, here. They are supposed to be quite a bit longer, actually. But what happens is, as the tire gets compressed, this cover starts to dig into the sidewall, and as you can see, it starts to wear out the tires here by a little bit at least. I only watched the first 2 minutes of the video. It doesn't really seem to be a major problem to me. I think Tesla will figure this out quickly. That damage that you see here, that's after a few thousand miles. This is good news. Tesla's Quicksilver color is now available in China. It does look really nice. Should help the demand a little bit. We got news about the lawsuit in California, and I was totally right yesterday that this is no big deal. Tesla just settled this California hazardous waste lawsuit with a $1.5 million fine. So really for Tesla, for us as stock investors, this doesn't mean anything in terms of a negative impact on Tesla's finances. But I certainly don't want Tesla to do anything wrong with hazardous waste. I think that issue has to be taken seriously. So I'm not quite sure if Tesla is doing something actually wrong here, or if California is just being California, enforcing things that, are being enforced just for the sake of being enforced instead of, oh yeah, this will actually help the environment. But given that Tesla is a company that is pro-environment, I would have a hard time believing that Tesla did anything wrong on purpose. Maybe by accident, sure, but on purpose, I really don't think so. Tesla has announced that Giga Berlin built 6,000 Model Ys in 1 week, a new record high. And of course, higher production is good for cost of goods sold. Tesla is able to produce these vehicles cheaper with economies of scale, helping Tesla. There's definitely progress being made with Giga Mexico. Tesla started hiring for the Gigafactory Mexico engineering program manager based in Austin, Texas, and you have to speak Spanish. That's a mandatory requirement if you want the job. From the latest Tesla report, we found out that Tesla has 140,000 employees worldwide now, which is very close to the number of employees that GM and Ford have. Ford actually experienced a decline in their employment numbers, and so did GM, but Tesla increased the total number of employees by about 9.5%. And if you recall, not that long ago, maybe just 18 months ago, Elon said that Tesla is suspending hiring. Well, clearly, the hiring freeze is no longer going on. Although if you do look at Tesla's employment growth, you can see that the growth slowed down by a little bit here. Well, this is definitely good news. After a week, I am very impressed with the new Tesla Model 3 refresh. Tons of small updates and refinements add up to the easiest to recommend electric car in the world right now. This already got 6.2 million views on X. He's well respected, so you know that this is good for Tesla sales. And the video will definitely get over 1 million views.
Yo, I am impressed. I am very, very impressed with this car right here. This is the Tesla Model 3. Honestly, a worthy flagship. And it kind of feels now like a mini Model S. I'm really liking this ultra red color. It gives you sort of this heat map of the things that are around you. You can see the parking lines in the parking lot you're in. And then you'll see this little heat thing based on how close you are to the thing behind you. So I'm right against the curb now, so that's why it's red. It's decent. I mean, that's all improved with Tesla Model 3. And it also has a notably tighter steering radius. That wasn't really advertised at all, but that's really cool to see. And then there's also a much improved speaker system. So the speakers in this car, just driving around in this quiet cabin, listening to the better speakers, is way, way better than previously. This really feels like a mini Model S. For the non-performance version, which this is, it's complete. It's great. It's a flagship. It's a mini Model S. It's refined. It's well built. I'm very impressed. This is the car I would recommend so easily to anyone just looking for a first EV.
For the first time, Tesla will be at the Chicago Auto Show this month, the biggest auto show in North America, with more than 300,000 total attendees, so that could help sales. Attendees will be able to ride in the Model Y, X, and the refreshed Model 3. No Cybertruck yet. And no Model S. I guess people just really like the Model 3, and Tesla maybe wants to push that car a little bit more than the Model S. Some good news for our European friends. If you have a Tesla in Europe, Tesla will soon be activating adaptive headlight capabilities in the Model Y and legacy Model 3 in Europe. The new feature will be added through a free over-the-air software update. If you haven't tried these lights, they are amazing if you drive at night because your headlights can illuminate more of the surroundings without blinding any of the drivers. And here's a video showing this feature in action. The way it works is it basically can selectively dim individual pixels rather than dimming the entire headlight unit. We got some really good news for everyone who wants to estimate Tesla's deliveries, because Statistics Canada released EV incentive numbers for Model 3 and Model Y. This allows us to see Tesla sales in Canada, which in turn makes it possible to calculate the US sales as well. Therefore, Troy updated his 2023 numbers. So this is good. To me, what this means is Troy's estimates going forward are probably going to be a little bit more accurate. Everyone's estimates really should be more accurate because the data just got a little bit better. More and more countries are reporting their sales, and France, for example, is all right. And here's the summary of Tesla's January sales. This is based on the data reported just now with year-over-year change. It was the best January in all of these places except one at the bottom there. We do need to keep in mind that Tesla has largely flattened the delivery wave, so even though these numbers look really good, I would tend to be a bit cautious to make any strong conclusions just from January sales. We really do need to wait until the end of the quarter to see how is Tesla progressing this quarter. And here's the lawyer that took away Elon's compensation. Here's what he expects to happen further.
Under Delaware practice, there is a direct appeal to the Delaware Supreme Court, which has the final word on matters like this. So it's likely there'll be an appeal.
This current board, which is different to what it was in 2018, could put together a new compensation plan and then take it to shareholders to be ratified. How involved do you think you will be with your client? How involved do you think Kathleen J. McCormick will be in that process, if at all?
Well, the simple answer to that is that's a question for the board to determine in the first instance. And assuming it fulfills its fiduciary duties and uses ordinary and reasonable means to arrive at a result, my guess is I won't be involved at all. And my guess as well is the judge won't be involved at all. If the board comes out with a package which either facially is ridiculous, gargantuan, or otherwise raises concerns from a fiduciary perspective, I suspect you'll see my firm and I involved as well.
In other words, it does seem to me that he will be trying to come after Elon again. But if Tesla will no longer be incorporated in Delaware, he will have a much harder time. He's speaking in vagaries here. He's not saying specifically, oh, if Tesla has this kind of compensation, then okay, it's fine. Probably anything in billions would be too much in his view, which is a bit ironic because his firm stands to make billions of dollars from this lawsuit. It is not clear exactly how much he will make, but it might be a lot. I personally have more issues with the judge. Let me explain. The judge's language casts herself as the protagonist. The judge, McCormick, writes that her decision dares to go boldly where no man has gone before and announces once more unto the breach, dear friends, once more. This is striking. That kind of bluster and appetite for making history is more typical of people building political careers. I absolutely agree with that. Or in this case, potentially seeking the career opportunities and accolades that come with taking on the richest person in the world and a superstar CEO. And Elon has some strong words to share with all of us here. She's an activist and politician first and foremost, as her language clearly indicates. Elon did not tweet this on his main timeline, so only 87,000 people saw this. But maybe he should put that on his main timeline. Almost certainly, there would be more backlash against Elon Musk than from the mainstream media. I had some paperwork to take care of, but also I exchanged my previous new camera to this other new camera because the previous camera overheated. And this camera is so much harder to run. So the video today was published a little bit later. I've been trying to learn and answer questions such as, what is log-free? What is log-free cinema E? And what is a LUT? Is it the same thing as a profile picture? What is a dual ISO? And most importantly, what is a woman? Except for the last question. Everything is a bit confusing, but I have made quite a bit of progress now. Even a simple thing like autofocus turned out to be pretty not obvious on this particular camera. Turns out I was shooting on the wrong mode. And it was doing this weird thing where it would focus super fast and then it would refocus again. Pretty terrible. In the end, I'm pretty happy with the progress so far, but I'm probably using only maybe 25% of the potential of this camera, whereas my old camera, I've been squeezing everything I can out of it. I also had a really difficult time connecting this camera to my computer because I was shooting in the wrong mode and the camera would just turn off. I would see that it's on, but on my computer, I wouldn't see anything. Anyway, bear with me while I'm learning this camera. That's it for today's video. Like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you in tomorrow's episode. Thank you so much for watching. Another question I had was, why in California you cannot get a tattoo until 18, but you obviously can change your gender if you are not 18?